Welcome to Clued in Mystery. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Brooke, and we both love mystery.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Sarah. Well, we both have siblings, and so I think today is going to be an interesting conversation about siblings in mystery.
I'm looking forward to this.
Few relationships carry as much emotional weight or potential for tension as that between siblings. They share the same memories, the same wounds, and often the same secrets. When this relationship is built into fictional crime stories, it packs a punch. Whether siblings are protecting one another by covering up a crime or acting as rivals on opposite sides of an investigation, they make for some of the most compelling characters in mystery and thriller fiction. As Megan Abbott pointed out when she joined the show, brothers and sisters have their own shorthand, a glance, a word, and they can cut right to the heart of each other. That deep understanding can build incredible loyalty, but it can also create danger because when doing the right thing means betraying your sister or brother, the moral balance becomes very hard to strike and irresistible to watch unfold. Writers have recognized this power for generations. Think of The Fall of the House of Usher, the original sibling thriller, or We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. These are both eerie explorations of secrets, shared trauma, and devotion pushed to the edge. And while these stories border on horror, there's a clear connection to contemporary mystery thrillers. Whether fictional siblings are working together as an unbreakable team or torn apart as adversaries, their stories hit close to home for anyone who has a sibling. They give us the opportunity to consider our own family bonds, rivalries, and shared stories, and how we might feel in the characters' shoes. So, we'll explore why sibling dynamics continue to be one of the genre's most enduring ingredients and mention some of the stories that come to mind for us in this category.
Oh, what a great introduction, Brooke. And I think you're absolutely right that that relationship between siblings can be so fraught with tension, right? The wrongs that you feel you get from a sibling are 10 times worse than those that you could get from anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Or that sense of responsibility and loyalty. I'm a big sister. And so, like, don't mess with my little sister, right? That feeling that you get is so
Hmm.
strong and almost the way that you feel about your children if you're that big sibling. So it's a very strong, almost primal thing that we have with our siblings.
You mentioned Megan Abbott in the introduction, and we spoke to her because her book that was released earlier this year, El Dorado Drive, really played with those relationships between it was sisters in her book.
Three sisters. In that story, I think we see a lot of that, what I mentioned of the loyalty and the guilt, because they wanted to support one another. And yet there's some really fishy, potentially criminal things going on. And so, do you turn in your sibling or do you just help them hide it? And I really felt that tension that the characters are going through in that story. Conversely, a function that siblings can provide in a story of that manipulation or almost like a dark mirror is definitely present in a book I know we both also read, which is Julie Chan is Dead, Sarah.
Yeah, that's a great example of siblings. And the premise in that one is that one woman whose life is not turning out as well as she might like goes to visit her very successful social media influencer sister and finds her dead. And because they're twins, she takes the opportunity to assume her sister's life. And the book is really about what happens as a result of that.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and you mentioned twins, and that really takes it up a notch. Like, we're not just talking about siblings, we're talking about twins, and it just seems to, like, concentrate or magnify all the aspects that we just mentioned. I mean, we know in real life that toddler twins many times have their own language. You can separate twins at birth and then 30 years later find out that they have lived mirror lives. So it's not too much of a stretch in some of these fictionalized versions that it becomes very twisted and rather dark, because that book, while it is a mystery, I think that it is definitely a thriller type feel to it.
Well, and I would say that, when I think about books that fit into this category, almost exclusively they are thrillers.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, the Detection Club did ban the idea of twin plots. Maybe that's why we don't see it a whole lot in whodunits, because they said that it was too easy of a trick, right? Uh,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I like stories like, say, The Prestige, which plays with the idea of twins. I think if it's done well, it can be a really incredible twist. But there again, that story would fall into the category of a thriller, I believe, like, or a suspenseful drama. A sibling can also be used as a plot device, like they're the accused that gets an amateur sleuth involved in taking on the case. Lord Peter Wimsey s- goes through this in Dorothy L. Sayers' Clouds of Witness, because his brother Gerald is accused of a murder. And so Lord Peter must investigate this and clear Gerald's name. And the stakes are even higher because Gerald is the Duke of Denver, and so, in order to actually save the whole family's name, Lord Peter Wimsey is compelled to help. As an author of cozy mysteries, you're always looking for that good reason to get the amateur sleuth involved. And I think, you know, the loyalty and the responsibility to clear a sibling's name is a great opportunity.
Oh, definitely. And I think it works even if they don't have the strongest relationship.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes you see those are the stories at the end that they are brought back together again. So you have some character growth along the way.
Another sibling relationship is the step sibling relationship. And that features in Such Charming Liars by Karen M. McManus. So this is a YA novel. It's a stepbrother and a stepsister who do not have a particularly close relationship, but end up kind of thrown together because of circumstances. And I read it last year. It was quite good.
That's a great point, Sarah, because step siblings then maybe they don't have all that loyalty that you do with the siblings that you spent your whole life growing up with. Or yeah, that's a great kind of like side topic to the relationship.
So another YA book that I read last year is Death at Morning House, and this was by Maureen Johnson. She often writes stories that have a present day and a historical mystery as well. And in the historical mystery, it centers around a family with, I think it was 6 siblings, but I actually am not sure that I've got that right. But that's a key uh, point in that story is these family relationships.
Yeah. I haven't read that one, Sarah, but I love Maureen Johnson. So that sounds great. This year I read The Last Mrs. Parrish. This is by Liv Constantine. And this is interesting because the woman fakes having a sister in order to uh, ingratiate herself to someone who lost a sister to a chronic disease. So I thought that was interesting because it goes to show like how important that relationship is. And so to appear as if she went through the same loss, she made up a character in her own life.
Oh, that's a really good example, Brooke. Yeah, I read that earlier this year as well. And yeah, she really plays on having had this sister and using that to create this friendship with this other woman. I think, when you've got a large family, that can, you can have different relationships between the siblings. And you see that in Daisy Darker, where there are different siblings who return to, I think it's the grandmother's house, um, for one evening, and so that was by Alice Feeney and published in 2022. uh, and yeah, I think it's not just siblings who gather. There's other members of the family as well, but you really see that family tension.
Yeah, that's a good observation that different siblings have different relationships. So I think about how that plays out in, say, like an inheritance mystery, where there's this big group of siblings that keeps the story going that way, and perhaps two of them get along great, but then there's one that like can't get along, and they so just watching that play out, and we've all I think that's the thing about these stories is that they're very relatable in that we've all either been in the situation because we come from say a big group of siblings, or we've watched that with our friends. And so we can just understand what that might be like if you're put in that position.
Yeah, I think that's right, Brooke. It is an accessible way to connect readers to your story, because it's an experience that a lot of people have, right? That experience of being in a sibling relationship. And you mentioned inheritance. There's a series, that's another YA series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes called The Inheritance Games, and it centers around brothers who belong to this quite wealthy family. They are very different characters,
Fun.
but they have this, because they are brothers, they have this loyalty that almost feels, despite the tensions that they have with each other, they will stick up for each other when faced by, something external.
Yeah. And that's very real life. And speaking of that, I think we can't talk about this topic without mentioning a true crime example, which is Lizzie and Emma Borden, the infamous Borden case, which remains unsolved to this day and one of the most discussed sibling related crimes in history. This happened in 1892, so predates anything that we've talked about except Follow the House of Usher, I suppose. And Lizzie was accused and acquitted of killing their father and stepmother, but Emma remained kind of this shadowy, loyal sister figure, who certainly knew more than she talked about. And I think that dynamic really continues to inspire our fiction today.
Yeah, that's a great example. And yeah, unfortunately there are um real life examples of uh family disputes that turn out badly.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think that this is based on a real story, but Catherine McKenzie, who we had as a guest on the show, wrote a book in 2021 called 6 Weeks to Live. And it features sisters as their mother is dying. But so they're adult triplets who their mother is dying, but she actually thinks she's been poisoned.
Mm, that sounds fascinating. Well, we definitely also see this trope on screen. And recently I watched the series The Better Sister. And this is on Netflix and it's based on an Alafair Burke book by the same title. That book was released in 2019. But this is where an estranged sister duo have to reunite to unravel a mystery, because one of the sisters' husbands is murdered. And that man just happens to be the ex of the other sister. So, wow, all the strife and tension that we talked about right up front is packed into this. And I have not read the book yet, but the entire time I watched the series, I sat there thinking, I want to read this book because I have a feeling that it's probably much more expanded and even better twists along the way. There's only so much you can do on screen.
Yeah, that's a great example, and it plays with the trope that we mentioned with Julie Chen is Dead, where there's siblings, one who is successful and one who is not, and you know, then you layer on the fact that they've both been married to the same man. I enjoyed watching that. Well, Brooke, thank you. It has been so great to discuss siblings with you and the different ways that they turn up in mysteries.
It has been so much fun. But you know what? It's not the only exciting thing that we have happening this week, right, Sarah? This week on Friday, November 14th, our very first collaborative mystery that Sarah and I wrote together will be releasing.
I'm really looking forward to it being out in the world, Brooke.
That's right. We hope you go out and pick up a copy of Life or Delft. This is going to be the first in a series called the Delft Valley Mysteries, and we're just so excited that it's out going to be out into the world and available for mystery lovers like you. So thanks for joining us today on Clued in Mystery. I'm Brooke.
And I'm Sarah, and we both love mystery. Clued in Mystery is written and produced by Brooke Peterson and Sarah M. Stephen. Music is by Shane Ivers. If you liked what you heard, please consider telling a friend, leaving a review, or subscribing with your favorite podcast listening app. Visit our website to sign up for our newsletter, The Clued In Chronicle, and get mystery news, podcast updates, and bonus episodes. We're on social media at Clued In Mystery.